So, how did this all start for you? What led to this decision?
Were number one and foremost, I don't know what I'm doing. I did not know what I was doing.
What were some of the early realizations you made once you made this lifestyle change?
I mean, I'm standing in the RV dealership about to sign, and I call Jeff. I go, hold on, I gotta call somebody. And they're like, your husband? I'm like, no, my financial planner.
Really? So you have no intention of settling down? You're going to keep being on the move like this?
You know, at 60 years old, a woman of a certain age by herself doing this, it was quite a risk, quite a jump off the cliff, if you will.
We are back for another episode. Big shout out to all our subscribers. We thank you for your support. And if you haven't subscribed, please click that subscribe button, follow button, like button, wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening. Show us some love, whether you're streaming on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. We really appreciate you guys and your continued support. And today I want to ask the question, what is RV life really like? Have you ever considered selling all that you own, buying an RV, and just driving off into the sunset? Well, our guest today did just that. At the age of 60, she bought a 36-foot RV and drove off by herself with no plan. And since then, she's traveled to Alaska, looped the U.S. 3 times, and she's still going strong. We're happy to have on the podcast today Jenell Jones. Jenell, thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Mike. It's my favorite topic to talk about is my lifestyle because it is crazy for people. And especially, you know, at 60 years old, a woman of a certain age by herself doing this, it was quite a risk, quite a jump off the cliff, if you will.
So how did this all start for you? One day you just made this huge decision to sell everything, buy an RV, and just drive off into the sunset. That's a pretty remarkable story. What led to this decision?
You know, Mike, I think it started from my childhood. I was born 6 kids. I'm the oldest of 6 kids. We were poor. I mean, we ate, but we were poor. And when you're poor, you move a lot. So that instilled in me, for better or worse, that we move. You know, I need to move. And as you get older and own a house, that is not that much of a realistic lifestyle if you don't have to. So I flipped houses. I would buy a house, flip it myself, but I was too scared to do it on my, to not live in it. And so I moved every time I flipped those houses. So every year, every 2 years, I was still moving. So when I retired, luckily at the age of 54, I bought a lake house. I'm sitting on the lake watching it every day. And I was like, this is not for me. I'm only 54 and I want to do something. So I bought an RV and I started traveling. I realized that out of 24 months that I kept track for 24 months, I only came back to my house 4 total months, and that was to check on my house. So I realized, hey, why don't I drop all this other money that I'm having to spend on this house, travel RV for a while, see how it goes. I can always buy another house. It's been 5 years. In September, it was 5 years.
Really? So you have no intention of settling down? You're going to keep being on the move like this?
You know, sort of, yeah, no. I don't know. I have no idea. In my mind right now, I'm thinking I might go to Mexico or Portugal and live for a year. I might buy some property in Tennessee, but I want to do the Colorado Hot Springs next summer, and I still want to go back to Vancouver. So who knows, Mike?
Yeah, that sounds exciting.
It is.
The great thing with being in the U.S. is there's just so much diversity in just where you can go. You can be in the desert. You can be in the tropics if you want to go down to Florida. You can go to Alaska if that's your thing. I mean, there's so many different places to be in, so many different environments and climates. There's just so much to do right here. That's great. I mean, and obviously this lifestyle, it's not for everyone. What were some of the early realizations you made once you made this lifestyle change?
My early realizations were, number one and foremost, I don't know what I'm doing. I did not know what I was doing. My family had never had an RV. I'd never been in an RV. I'd never driven an RV. And the salespeople tell you, rightly so, buy the RV. First research, I did none. First research. Number 2, when you buy the RV, you're supposed to go camp in your driveway or park nearby till you figure out what you're doing. Not me. I was in Fort Worth, bought the RV, took a left, and drove to California. I didn't have hot water for the first week because I couldn't remember how they told me to do it. So that was my first realization. I don't know what I'm doing. My second realization was I don't really know how to drive an RV. And there is a skill to it. It's not a hard skill, but there is a skill. It'd be like driving a truck. You don't know how to drive a truck, but if you figured it out, you would know. My third
Does it
realization,
require a separate license?
no, it doesn't.
Okay.
It does not. It might should, tell you the truth, but no, it
Yeah.
doesn't.
It's like
Anyone,
driving a bus, right? I mean, they're big.
mine's 36 feet, and then with my car, it's 60 feet. I call it
Wow.
a 60 feet a hot mess going down the road. So, so that was like the three main things. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know where I was going. We all have this bucket list. That's awesome. When you sit down and write your bucket list, it's really like 5 or 6 things. So, okay, I'm going to do the bucket list. Well, after 2 months of doing the bucket list, it's like, now what? And like you said, America is a wonderful, great place. But tell me right now, after your bucket list, where would you go? Well,
Yeah.
literally, where would you go? So that's a weird challenge. And especially for those of us, like all of us, who've had children and careers and jobs and houses and mortgages and bills, that you don't have those choices. When you suddenly have those choices, it's a different feeling. It's great. But that's also something I struggled with when I first started out. Where to go, where to actually go after the bucket list stuff is done.
So, what kind of person should not embrace RV life or van life? Like, it takes a certain kind of person to navigate this kind of lifestyle successfully. I think it takes a certain level of boldness and courage, and I commend you for that. But what kind of person should not take this on?
If you cannot adapt quickly, don't do this because you will have to adapt. The adapting gets less as you get more experience, but that first year or two, if you can't adapt on the fly, you are not, this is not for you. If a flat tire on a 20,000 pound vehicle will make you lose your mind, this is not for you. There's things you can do. You can get it fixed. People come and help you. But if that causes you a breakdown, and at one point in my life it would me too, especially as a single female. I don't just jack up a car and change a tire. I mean, I could if I had to, but that's just not something. And then on 20,000 pounds, you're not going to jack up anything. So that if you don't have the ability to embrace this as part of, flat tire on a 20,000 pound vehicle, if you can't embrace that as part of the journey, this is not for you. And if you think, I'll get better. No, you've already been doing that your whole life. And so if that's not your pattern, it's definitely not going to be your pattern. Stuck on the side of the road with 5 miles of traffic that you're blocking with a flat tire.
Okay, well, I have a stupid question for you. How do you change a tire on a 20,000 pound vehicle? Do you do that yourself?
No, you get a guy. I got a guy. No, I
Okay.
have 2 services. One's my primary and then a backup for roadside assistance. It's no big deal. You just pay your money and they show up. Takes about an hour and they show up.
And
don't
that's
wait.
not something you could ever do on your own. Like, you
No.
need special equipment to do
Yes.
that.
Yes.
I take it.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. Especially like me when I drove off the side of the road halfway to try to help traffic and I was in sand. That was even like a better thing to do because then the guy griped at me for having to dig through 3 feet of sand.
Yeah. 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 What are some other moments where you realized, wow, I have to adapt quickly here? Can you give us some other examples?
Yes, I'll give you the one that stands out in my mind. My GPS sent me down a dirt road. So, and that's fine, but it was 8 miles of dirt road in the middle of farm country, and there was just nothing. There was nowhere to turn around. My GPS had died by that point, so I just kept going, and I had to go about 20 miles an hour. I come to this bridge, and it is a wooden bridge. It doesn't say anything about weight and height. Now, remember, I'm about 10 feet wide with my mirrors. I believe I weigh 31,000 pounds, and this is a bridge with wood slats. So the only other thing I had passed on that entirety, you think about how far 8 miles is on a dirt road. I had passed a truck hauling cows. So I thought, well, if they came across that bridge, I can go across it. So, Mike, I said a prayer. I opened my driver's side window. I put my purse on, and I prepared. And because below that bridge, I got out and looked. Below that bridge was water, and
Right.
so I thought, well, if the bridge, the RV is going to drop through all this weight if I can't, and hopefully I live. And I went across that bridge. I didn't hit the gas, but I kept moving across that bridge. And that was a time in my life where I stood there for 10 minutes saying, should I do this? Should I not? Well, what do I do? Do I back up? Do I back up 8 miles? How do I get back? All this stuff. And finally I was like, you know what? Embrace the journey. If I don't die, this is going to be a hell of a story one day. And I didn't die.
Yeah. And then here you are telling it on a podcast.
Yes, exactly. I've told it quite a bit. And I think that to myself, and I say that to people, if you don't die, this is going to be awesome later on.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So was there ever a moment where you second guessed this decision? Like this change, you embraced all this? Was there ever moments of hesitation where you were like, should I just settle down in a house? Should I stop doing this? Has that ever crossed your mind?
No, not really, because I'm a kind of all in, all out kind of girl. If I'm in, I'm all the way in, which is this. I will say when my stepfather set me down at the beginning and talked to me about serial killers, preying on women driving on their own, I was like, well, and I kind of like,
Yeah.
please. But then later on, I was like, there is that whole safety thing that I hadn't even give any thought to at all.
Yeah.
But I've since learned that, safety is not just locking your door. There's a whole lot to it. But that's the only time it kind of gave me pause. But since I've been doing it, nope, not one bit. Now, have I had some bad days? Yeah. But I've never once said I'm not going to do this.
Talk about security. Is that an issue? I told you, off mic, we were talking about some of the van life videos that I've watched over the years, and there's some really cool stories in there. But some of the people in the van life world have expressed that people who are curious just take liberties and want to see the inside of your van, and they'll just walk up to you in a parking lot, and you don't know who these people are, and they feel sometimes almost entitled to see the inside, and they'll be, even demanding. Have you ever encountered that, and what steps do you take, if you're comfortable sharing, for your own personal security because you are a woman on your own?
It's funny. People do want to see the inside of your RV. What I get a lot at gas stations especially is pumping gas on each side of the pump, and somebody looks over and sees me and sees the big RV, and they're like, you drive that by yourself? Like, yep, I do. Do you drive that by yourself, sir? Yeah. You drive that truck all by yourself, or that Honda? So they get it. But I'll tell you, safety, and women know this for sure. It's been drilled into our heads since we were little girls to, watch your surroundings. But safety in an RV starts long before locking your door. It's a series of decisions you make. Going back to the flat tire. Am I going to be a helpless damsel on the side of the road with a flat tire? No, because I have two companies that will come. Not one, I have two that can come and help me. I make sure that I know how to drive and operate my own RV. I make sure that I can get the cap off of something, because that's a big one. I've had other women come to me and go, can you help me get the cap off, let's say the sewer, or the gas cap or something, because it's, we're not strong enough. So it's simple little decisions like that you make that makes you not be helpless, if you will, out in the real world. And someone that comes and asks to see the inside of my RV, I turn and directly face them and say, no, not at this time. And I'm not like, oh, well, maybe. I'm like, no, not at this time. And then I shut the door, or I keep moving, or do whatever I'm doing. So just to shut it down right there. And again, most women know that this is, someone else walking up to you for some other nefarious thing. But it's a series of steps you take to ensure your safety.
Why do you think people, I know they're curious, but why do you think people feel entitled to see the inside? I know, again, those of us who don't live that lifestyle, we're curious to see, what's this all about? What's it like in there? I've been in, car shows and stuff where they've had those on display, and I've gone into every single one of them because I just think they're wild. But what do you think that is? Why do you think people feel entitled to see the inside of somebody's home? You would never walk up to somebody's home and ask them that, right? What do you think that is?
No. I don't know if it's our entitled society. I don't know if it's because, for me, that because I'm a woman alone, I don't know, would they walk up to a man? I don't know, maybe they would. But I think it's just, and I like to think the best of people. So maybe it's just because they're honestly interested and it's just kind of a one-on-one, especially if you get to talking and, you're friendly and I'm friendly to everybody for the most part. So I think that might be it. I like to think there's no ill intent. I mean, I hope not.
Yeah. Can you share a time where your security was threatened? Is there ever a time where you felt unsafe? What happened? What did you do? What did you learn from the situation?
Yes, yes, and yes to all that. My big speech I just made about the series of steps. One of the series of steps is I personally don't drive. I drive, on the days that I'm traveling, I'll drive till about 3 o'clock because then I get somewhere, I get parked, I get settled, I can see the surrounding in daylight, who's pulling in, etc. 2 times I've not done that, and 2 times I didn't regret it. Well, I did regret it. Nothing happened, but I shouldn't have done it. Both times I was driving past when I should have pulled over. Both times it was in the dark. Just because I was having a good day, there was no traffic. I was like, eh. So I pulled over the first place. It was right off the interstate. And there was a grocery store. And right next to it was an abandoned furniture warehouse. So I was like, oh, perfect. I'll just park here in the morning, get right back on the highway. The grocery store, oddly, was open 24 hours. I didn't even think anything about that, huh? So I just get in, parked, and my RV is completely self-contained. When I'm parked on the side like that or the road, something, a rest stop, I never go out of my RV, ever. So I slept, I woke up, I opened my door, sitting there in my coffee, and directly behind me is the back of a bail bonds, a liquor store, a cigarette shop, a cash check, and a very lower socioeconomic neighborhood that I'm
Hmm.
sitting in. I was like, oh my God. And I looked out, just, kind of joking to see if all my tires were on my car. They were. It was fine.
Good.
But I would have never chose to park there if I had listened to my own rules. And another time, same thing. I was parked at the back of a liquor store and didn't realize it because I came in late.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
what woke me up was people coming in there about 6 o'clock in the morning. I heard rattling and doors opening. I look out my window. I'm in the back of a liquor store in another poor neighborhood, if you will.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
never stay there because I stand out so much in this big fancy rig. A blonde girl, older woman too. I just stand out like a sore thumb, and I would
Mhm.
never, choose to park there. I need to stay at rest areas, truck stops, that type thing.
So you go some long distances sometimes. You have that 3 o'clock rule, which
Hmm.
is smart. What happens if there's nowhere to stop at 3 o'clock? Have you
There
ever
is.
had to drive an extra? Do you always find a
Yep.
spot to?
Yep.
Do you
Yep.
plot your trip in advance?
Nope. Nope. I
Really?
know. No. No. Well, Mike, I'm not saying this is right. I'm just saying this is how I do it. I know, like, okay, for instance, I'm in Southern
See,
California.
I'm sorry, Janelle. I'm an organization guy. So like I need to see where I'm going. I need to plot the course. Anytime there's a road trip, I got to know what's what and what's where. My daughter's like that too. We just need to know where we're going, and
Hmm.
it's a structure thing. So I just find it fascinating that people don't do that. Do you know what I mean?
Mike, I am so detail oriented, anal retentive, whatever words you want to use. I mean, down to right now, us talking to have a pen and a blank piece of paper just in case we need a note. I mean, I have my lip chap here. I'm right with you.
Yeah.
That's why it's so weird for me how I live this lifestyle. Okay, so back to the original question. So, for instance, I'm in Nyland, California. I'm fixing to move to Quartzsite, and then from Quartzsite, I'm going to Texas. Now, I have a plan. Now, I've done that Quartzsite to Texas 10 times. There's nothing I need to see I hadn't already seen. So I know that I drive about 4 hours a day. There's no reason to drive 8 hours. That's rookie stuff. That's also going back to being safe. Your safety. You don't need to be driving until you're exhausted. So I'll drive 4, maybe 5 hours if there's no traffic. There's always somewhere to stay. You can always check into a campground. But if I'm just going A to B, even if it's across country, I do rest stops. And I know the rest stops. You know, I have a little app thing on my RV that can tell me the next rest stop. I have had to I have pulled in a rest stop and it's full, and I've had to go on the next one 60, 70 miles away. But if you do it about 3, get there before 4 for sure, you always have a place.
So you mentioned Nyland. What was that like? I've heard a lot of stories about that, but I've never been there.
You're talking about Quartzsite,
Yeah,
Arizona?
not yeah, no, not isn't Nyland isn't Nyland in California, like somewhere near the Salton Sea,
It
like
is.
below that? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So
okay.
what was that like? Did you spend a lot of time there?
Yes, I come here, funny enough, about twice a year. I was just here in February. I'm looking out at it right now, the Chocolate Mountains, the desert and the Chocolate Mountains. It's beautiful here. It's this RV resort in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it is in the middle of the deserts, and boom, up sprout these palm trees, 500 RVs, I think. And it's this family that found this hot springs years and years ago, and slowly but surely have developed it, and it's still family owned, has developed it into this must go to RV park. I have to go to Quartzsite every year in January for my RV club, and
Hmm.
so I usually stay here because it's only 2 hours away, and in the RV world that's nothing. And so I stay here until it's time to go to Quartzsite, or I leave Quartzsite and come here.
Hmm. So how hard was it to part ways with your stuff? You obviously had to do a pretty big purge if you sold your house. Some of us had a lot of stuff in this day and age. Was this a difficult thing, and how did you manage that?
It was hard. It's, once I got started, it was okay. But, you know, you look at something you've had that you remember exactly, you bought that in Italy, or you know, your mom, sister's friend gave it to you, and, you know, but once you get started, it's fine. I mean, I had everything out there, stuff I actually should have kept, or that I had to rebuy for the RV. But nah, I got rid of 3 sets of china that I had taken years to collect, 3 sets of china of 12. Now remember, I'm single. Okay, so I don't know if I've ever used outside of 1 or 2 plates, you know, once at Christmas. So what I had trouble with my clothes, funny enough, my clothes and my shoes, because being poor, that was a way, and it took some therapy, as a matter of fact, to realize this, but that was a, me and my clothes was a way to show the world I wasn't this poor girl anymore. Not
Yeah.
that anybody even cared or knew about it unless I told them. And so I had real trouble psychologically getting rid of those clothes and shoes. I even wrote an article about it that's been picked up by a couple of magazines and all, because it was I had to kind of go deep. The rest of the stuff, whatever, give me $3 for it. You know, China said it cost $700. But those clothes and shoes, and there's no resale value. I don't care, you know. And so I had to literally throw away things that were my identity, throw away things that I had accomplished, if you will. For your
Mhm.
readers, I'm putting that in parentheses, or for your listeners,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it was who I was. It was who I had thought I had become, you know. And I even had this little line. I had one high-heeled foot in my old life and one sandaled foot in my new life. You know, I have to be cute at the RV places. You know, I got to have some options and some cute outfits. Please, I could care less now. I was like, well, you know, I'm gonna, for the first couple of years, I had one tan suit with 3 different shirts, you know, shells for underneath,
Yep.
and I kept 2 pair of high heels. Not once in 4 years did I even find or look to find that stuff, so I finally got rid of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Is there so there's no occasion where you wear heels?
No.
Really?
No.
It's just not the lifestyle.
It's not the lifestyle anymore.
Yeah.
You know, the thought of having to go to a nice dinner where it takes 3 hours and the reservation was 3 weeks. I had that life. I loved it. I was happy to wear the clothes and do all that. Now I had much rather take that $400 and go hike Mount Rainier, which I did this summer. I'd much rather do that.
That's fair. So you said you're single. I guess my question is, how committed are you to this lifestyle? Are you all in on this? Do you see yourself ever stopping? What would happen if you met somebody? Is that in the cards, or are you just on this path and happy doing what you're doing?
I love this lifestyle. I want this lifestyle, but is it going to be forever? I don't know. I have no idea. I have met someone, I've met two as a matter of fact, and they both RV'd too.
Okay.
I'm between opportunities, as I like to say right now. But whoever this next person will be, he has to have his own RV. He's not getting in my RV, that's for darn
Okay.
sure. And
There's no
most times,
shacking up in RVs, is what you're
no,
saying.
no, no,
Okay.
no, no.
Okay.
But by this, and most times they don't want to either. Because by this age, and if you have this life, you already know I'm settled in my own life. I mean, I have a nice big RV, but it's full. It's full of my stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not putting anybody else's stuff, and I don't want that. It's a different lifestyle for me now. And any man that I'm with, they will have the same philosophy. And
Yeah.
the two I was with did. They wanted the same thing. We traveled
Yep.
all over together. It was great. It was really great. And then, they drove that way and I drove this way. It was fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So, how do people manage this lifestyle financially if they're considering it? Is it reasonable? Is it pricey? How does all that work?
It's however you live right now, Mike, is how you're going to live in an RV.
Okay.
My RV cost about what my last house cost. Now, I could have went cheaper. I could have went in debt for a bigger, just like in real life, and just like in your sticks and bricks, we call them, a house that doesn't move for some odd reason, the people that choose that life.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I live exactly how I lived in my other house. I just live tiny. And I live on the move. I am quite the homebody, quite frankly. And so, when I retired, I did what everybody does. I went and traveled Europe and all around. But as you said at the beginning of the podcast, there's so much in the United States. And I realized I'd rather travel in the United States where I feel safer and healthcare and authorities and government, et cetera. But I'm just going to take my house with me. So I made sure my house was comfortable for me, for what I can afford and for how I want to live. Could I do cheaper? Yes. Could I do more expensive? Yes. There's RVs out there easily $1 million. We did a tour with my RV group this summer where the RV started at 1.2 million. And that was a 5-year-old used one that was, marked down.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow.
so I can't afford that, so I don't live like that. But if I had a stick and bricks house, I can't afford that, and so I don't live like that either.
Right.
So I'm quite fortunate to have, money coming in. I have a pension and some other investment opportunities because going back to safety, I made sure years ago that I would be able to afford whatever lifestyle I have now. So,
See, that's smart. We've done previous episodes on money and finance, and proper financial planning is so sound. So you're now reaping the rewards of thinking ahead. And I think more Americans need to think that way. So hats off to you for that, Jenell.
Well, shout out to Jeff Atlas, my financial planner. I probably called him 4 times when I retired. I'm buying an RV. He goes, you can buy an RV. I'm like, okay, well, I'm doing it. He's like, okay, because, for so many years, he's like, don't spend. You cannot buy that. Don't buy that. I mean, I'm standing in the RV dealership about to sign, and I call Jeff. I go, hold on, I got to call somebody. And they're like, your husband? I'm like, no, my financial planner. So I called Jeff. I'm like, okay, Jeff, I'm doing this. And he goes, Jenell, you can quit calling me. Buy the RV. You can afford it.
That's a great position to be in.
Well,
That's a
scary.
great position to be in.
It is,
Yeah.
but it was scary because that was one more
course.
thing. Once you sign papers on money, you ain't going back. This is your life now. Well,
Yeah.
greatest decision I ever made.
No, that's awesome. And what year is that RV?
It's a 2020. It's a 2020. I bought it new.
Okay, so it's relatively new.
Yeah, in the RV world.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
In the
People
RV
buy
world, yeah.
18-year-old
RVs are like trucks, right? They can do like hundreds of thousands of
Yes.
miles. It's not like a
Yeah.
it's not like a small compact car, right?
No. The engine's fine. The other stuff will go out long before that engine does. No, it's not uncommon to buy a 18, 15, 25-year-old RV.
And what kind of mileage can you expect on the one that you bought? Like how many miles did it have when you bought it, and how many miles have you put on it?
It had 0 miles on it, and I'm at about 55,000. That, for the record, I've driven all by myself. No one but me has ever driven this RV.
Why does 55,000 not sound like a lot for somebody that's traveling all the time?
Well, you figure that you travel less than 10,000 miles a year.
Yeah.
So, and remember this,
I guess.
and this is my third
Yeah.
RV too. My other ones had, I don't know, 40, 50,000 on them too.
Okay.
So I've done
Okay.
and it may be more. I don't know. I hadn't looked at it in a while.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you were going to ask me about what kind of mileage do I get per gallon. That's
Is that a big cost?
Oh, it's the cost. It's like going to a fancy restaurant with no prices. If you have to look, you shouldn't be there. Same thing. I always say if I'm sitting still, downhill, the wind at my back, and the engine isn't on, I get about 9 miles to the gallon. Once I turn the engine on and start moving, hopefully I could get 9 miles to the gallon. I've never figured it out. I don't care. It cost me about $250, $300 to fill up half a tank. And when I drive, on the days I drive, it's about $250, $300 a day.
Now, are you OCD like I am on road trips and need to have a full tank as often
Oh,
as
yeah.
possible? Are
Yeah.
you always topping up even if you got $10 that you got to top up with?
I definitely start looking at half a gallon. Because I can't pull into just any gas station. So I may have to go past 3 gas stations. And then, God forbid, if I see a gas station that I can get in that has, 10 cents less a gallon, I will pull in and fill up the car, something. I will get some of that gas if it's cheaper. But that doesn't happen often.
Yeah. And that means leaving the state of California as quick as you can when you need gas, right?
I don't. I make sure I'm full before I get here. And the further east you go, the better the gas price is. So that's,
yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. To talk about some of the amenities you have. So you said you're totally self-sufficient. So you have laundry on board.
Oh, yeah.
What is it, a gas stove? Do you run off a generator? How does it all work?
All of that's true. The number one amenity is I get to hike Mount Rainier. I get to drink out of Crater Lake. I get to see the National Memorial on the Memorial Day. I mean, that's the number one amenity. Number two is, I have a washer dryer. I have a fireplace. I have a central vac. I have a gas stove. I have a refrigerator that's as big as the one in your house. I don't have one of them little small refrigerators. No, I have a tiny house. I have a couch, full-size couch, I have a chair. I'm sitting in my dining room. Yeah, you can see my kitchen there. Nobody else can. But I have a full functioning house. Now, at my house, I can also see my steering wheel. So that's, something different. But those chairs turn around and become part of the living room. And they're both, recliners, leather recliners. So,
now, how often do you have to change the, the sewage tank? Whatever you call those, the bathroom stuff.
right.
Yeah, that stuff has to get changed out every so often, right?
It does.
Obviously.
It does. Let's get down to the nitty gritty of RVing. Let's get past hiking Mount Rainier and riding a bike through the Grand Canyon for 13 miles. So once starting, it's hard. There's a big learning curve. You don't, like I said, you don't know what you're doing, and you're dealing with sewage. Okay, I've dumped raw sewage on my own feet. Thankfully, it was my own raw sewage, but it's
still not comforting.
disgusting as hell. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So I have 80-gallon water tank. Now right now I'm hooked up, but I can drive out in the middle of anywhere and be completely self-sufficient with my own electricity, my own water, my own holding tanks, everything. You have a tank for clean, fresh water. You have a tank for gray water, that's shower and sink, and then you have black water, the black tank, and that's sewage. So the water tank, you learn how long you can go after a while. I can go about 10 days with fresh water without having to get, if I, a little bit conserved, which we should all be doing anyway. And then my black tank, I've never filled the black tank up. I empty that just when I go get it. If I need 80 gallons of water or 60 gallons of water, I go ahead and empty the black tank as well.
So that happens in the same place? These are at rest stops, or where do you go to do that?
Again, just like parking somewhere, in our world, in the RV world, there's hundreds of places to go. That's not an issue. There's
and is there a fee?
Sometimes yeah, sometimes no. But, the fee could be $5 or $20. And that's just part of this lifestyle. But again, there's several apps that you can go to that show you where the next dump is and show you how much.
Okay.
But for somebody like me, I can drive from California to Florida and take 10 days and not ever have to dump or get clean water. So it's
Yeah.
just it's not, for the van life, yeah, they got to go every couple of days. I don't.
Yeah. 10 days is a good stretch.
Yeah.
Like that's longer than most people's vacations.
Yeah. Well, when
Yeah.
you live on vacation, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
And
That's the life.
I would never drive from California straight to Texas anyway. There's so much to see and do. And like, for instance, I love in New Mexico, I always like to stop in Albuquerque. In Texas, I always like to stop where I bought my RV and get some little stuff done. So it's, when you first start this life, yes, you go from A to B. You drive at 8 a.m., you stop at 5, you're exhausted, and you keep moving. Then you realize, hey, wait, I don't have to be anywhere. So why don't I, enjoy this ride and stop and see the world's largest ball of yarn on the side of the road, or the alligator park, or go eat at, Mo and Fred's hamburger stop that's been there since 1922. You can do that, and you should do that. This is a journey. It's not a destination.
That's fantastic. And so how do you handle the permanent address thing? Sometimes things require a fixed address, right? Do you have
Yeah.
somebody back in Texas that can get that for you? How does all that work?
Yeah, you do have to have a permanent address for the government, really. Otherwise, and people always ask about mail. What do you get in the mail anymore, really, except from the government? So at first, everybody starts off with their cousin, sister, mother, whatever. I have a service out of South Dakota because that's my official address is South Dakota, and they have a mail service there as well. And they just get my mail, scan it if I want them to, or forward it to the next place I'm going to be. It's no big deal.
Okay.
Yeah, that's no big deal.
Okay. So you mentioned that you have places to call when you have car trouble. So like, where do you take it in for service if there's a serious breakdown in the middle of Alaska, or you're getting, transmission problems? How do you handle that?
Just call a dealer, call some place, Google, just like you would do, Mike, Google something, I purposely bought this RV in Fort Worth, Texas. Number one, my family lives in Texas. My daughter lives in Florida, but my family is in Texas, so I'll always be in Texas. Texas is sort of kind of the middle of the country. So if I had to limp in from California or limp in from, New Hampshire, I could sort of kind of make it there. But just like with doctors and dentists, you don't have to go to the same one. You can pull in anywhere that'll take you. So I've had service and repairs and oil changes and stuff done all over the country. And then I make a note of where, if this is a good place. I got my oil change here. Amarillo. When I go through Amarillo, Texas, I went for oil change there 3 years ago. Made a note. Don't remember them, but I wrote, nice guys, good service, got me in, cheap price. So I'm got an oil change scheduled with them when I go back through on my way to Florida.
And how often do you have to change the oil? You're
Just
doing a
like
lot of
you do.
highway driving, so less, right?
Yeah, I do about every 5,000 miles, just either
Okay.
way. Just because, once I am driving, this is pulling a lot of weight. It's going up hills, down hills. People tell me I change it too much. I don't care. I'd rather have it done and have clean, I like being clean and working on all
Yeah.
cylinders with food and rest. So I'm thinking my engine's the same way.
Yeah. And is it considerably more expensive than a car oil change?
I paid anywhere from $99 to $299. But honestly, last year I learned to change my own oil in my RV. Super simple, way easier than a car because it's so much higher. So, I learned to do it myself. So I'm even saving money on that now. And I still get it done. But if I'm out in the middle of nowhere and it needs to be done, I just do it myself. My generator, I can change the oil in my own generator, and that's about $100, $150 too. So not that much money, but you have them both done in one day. That could be a $500 shot. So,
Yeah.
for $150,
Yeah.
I do both myself. It's easy.
Right.
And I hate to keep beating a dead horse here, but that goes back to the safety, the little steps. Knowing
Yeah.
how to do some of my minor repairs myself, that I'm not at the mercy of someone else,
Yeah.
is a safety factor. Not that anybody's going to do anything to you when you go get your oil changed, but, hey, why not save some money while you're at it?
Right. And another way to look at it is you don't have stationary utility bills, you're not
No,
paying property taxes,
no.
so you have costs in other areas, but
Yeah.
it sounds like it's manageable and you just have different associated costs than I don't know, what do you guys have a name for us non-traveling people, like normies? Is there a name that you guys have for non-RV
No,
people?
we call y'all sad. We just call you sad. It's like, why would you
Sad.
stay and look at the same backyard when you can look at a
I got a
chocolate?
nice backyard, Janelle.
Okay, that's wonderful. And Mike, joking aside, this life is not for everyone. Some
Yeah.
people want the sameness, and you said yourself, you're very organized, very detailed, and people like that want that sameness, thrive in that sameness, and that's okay. I did many years as well. I walked around with a notebook 24 hours a day. I mean, it was by my bed at night. But as I got older, I realized I want different. I want a life. I want to look back and be, when I'm old and tired and stop, to have a hell of a life, and to have really, really experienced all that life has to offer. And I'm 65 now. I have, hopefully another 20 years, 10 years of this type of living.
Yeah.
So yes, Mike, we call y'all sad.
So you said another 20 years. I mean, we get into our older years, just by nature, some of us get less mobile. Not everybody.
Yeah.
But what thought have you given to that? If you get to an age where, you're physically less able, what's on your radar for that? Have you thought about that?
I have. I'd probably sell the RV and get in a house. I do that. I do in Florida by my daughter. But I'll say one thing: this lifestyle keeps you moving. It Because you have to hook and unhook and get in the gas station and back up and do all this stuff that you wouldn't be taxing your mind to do if you were at your house looking out at your lovely backyard every night watching TV. So here there's bike rides to do, just like right out the side here. I hiked yesterday up into the mountains. I wouldn't do that if I was sitting at my house. First of all, there was no mountains in Texas for me to hike at, and I'd have to bike ride through the town and get hit. So if you embrace this lifestyle, it is a healthy lifestyle. Now you can sit in your RV every day, but for the way I do it, full-time traveling, this is a healthy lifestyle that will keep me going more. And in my RV club, there's 80-year-olds out here that drive fifth wheels, and those are monsters, huge. There's a guy that's 73 that drives a 44-foot and pulls a 25-foot trailer behind him because it's his workshop.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
That's great. So what does a person do if they're not the handy type? You obviously have to be handy to do this. You're learning to do things on your own. Things are going to break when you don't have somebody immediately available to fix it. Do you have to just become handy to thrive in this lifestyle?
I would say I was sort of handy, but not an RV. I mean, it's a whole different type of handy you need to be. YouTube is your friend. And when I go and get my RV fixed somewhere, especially those first few years, I would ask, I want to go back and watch what he does. Because if I can see it, I can do it. Now, I can't, change a transmission. But how I learned to do a generator, I watched the guy doing it. I'm like, good Lord, I can do that. One of the guys in the RV club showed me how to change my oil. Lay down under here and I'll show you exactly what to do. And then I was mad. Good Lord, I've been paying $300 for this, for somebody to undo this and change, No,
Yeah.
I went and bought the tools I need. So if you're not handy, there's RV places everywhere. There's mobile RV guys. You get to know other RV people, travel in an RV club like I do, and there's people that'll help you or show you what to do. It's like moving into your first house. You just sort of kind of learn as you go, or you don't. You got a guy on speed dial.
Yeah.
However you live now is how you'll live when you're in the RV.
So tell us about this RV club. You run your own RV club, am I right?
Yes. So when I first started out, those 2 years, like I said, I traveled on my own. And then once I went full time, I realized I want to travel with people. I want to have some RV friends because it's hard to make friends in this lifestyle. people are nice to you at RV parks and this and that, but then you drive off and they drive off. I mean, you go a year without having dinner with anybody. It's like, well, I'm okay by
Yeah.
myself, but I'd like to eat with somebody.
Yeah.
So I found the Wandering Individuals Network, WINS for short, RV Club, and it's for solo travelers. It's 36 years old. It's been around forever. They know everywhere in the United States. And Mike, I am not exaggerating. They can tell you there is a dump that's free at the corner of 5th and Main in Boise, Idaho. And off the top of their head, yes, I'm not kidding you. I love the club. 2 years ago, I bought the club, full disclosure. Love it. So now I'm the one that gets to plan the trips and gets to go on all these trips based on where I want to go and input from the members. But like this year, we started in Big Bend, Texas National Park, went through Texas up to Iowa for a tulip festival for $250,000 tulips, came across the Badlands, did Washington, Oregon, and straight down California. It was a great summer. It was an 8-month-long trip. We don't just do a week here and there. You can, if you're part of the club, you come and go as you please. But for people like me that are full-time, if you want to stay with the club, you can stay with us pretty much all year and travel.
So are you with people all the time in this club? Is there always a community around you, or do you travel solo at all?
Yes to both of those. We travel on our own, but together. Once you become a member of the club, the Wandering Individuals Network, you go to the members only page and you see the trips that are coming up and you choose to go or not go. I mean, like we've got a summer in Michigan planned. Go or not. Show up for some of it, leave as long as you want. That 8-month trip I did, there was several of us that did the whole 8 months, but we probably had 50 members come in and out. Stay a week, stay 2 months, stay 1 month, drop back out, showed back up. That's the beauty of the club. You come and go as you please.
That's great. And, community is important.
It is.
So it's amazing that, you run this club and you have so many members. How many members do you have total?
There's about 320.
That's fantastic.
It is.
So, in a lifestyle that can be so lonesome if you don't do it right, it's just so great that you have this access to a community and that you can enjoy that. Have the social interaction, sit down with somebody, eat with somebody, right?
Yeah. Go to a museum, go to a hike. There's so many studies on isolation, especially as you get older, being so detrimental to your health. And we meet every single night when we're traveling together to talk about what we're going to do the next day. If you want to go, go. If you don't, stay home. But we bike, we hike, we do museums. We take of it. We go to the local, Fred's hamburger stand from 1922. We make sure we hit all those so that we are living this lifestyle and you're not isolated, because that again is so detrimental to your health as you get older, and it's hard to make friends when you're traveling every week. Unless they're traveling with you, you don't have friends.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jenell, I really enjoyed this conversation and learning all about your lifestyle, and I think it's fascinating. And I told you I have kind of an obsession with this stuff, so I was able to learn more. And I love your energy; it's great, and I think you're an inspiration to a lot of people just in the way you've tackled this. And how can people get more familiar with you and your club?
Great. Start at the website, Wandering Individuals Network RV Club. Any combination of that, you should have it. And I'll make sure to give it to you if you put it in the show notes. But yeah, reach out. All those tabs on there, the join here, want more information, they come right to me. I'm the CEO and the maintenance guy. So all those things come right to me. I'd be glad to talk to you, especially if you're scared on getting started. You can do a one-on-one with me and we can talk you through it.
Awesome. Thanks, Jenell, for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
And that'll do it for this edition. We are out of here. If you haven't, click that subscribe button and always check us out at mikecpodcast.com. Until next time, thanks, everybody.
The Mike C. Podcast.